Hey everybody, this is a competition problem that intrigued me. Now by the Cartesian plane, some people just call it the XY, but this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. You plot points on this Cartesian plane, Rene Descartes. Now what is the graph? Notice that nobody said this was a function, and you wouldn't expect this to be a function given all the even exponents here. So let's see what happens here. We can actually get the graph even though it wouldn't pass the horizontal or the vertical line test, I guess. But anyway, let's take a look here. Now, we just rewrote it right here. This is very straightforward right here. We just subtract and we rewrite it as a square. It's a square. All right, so this is very, very straightforward. Not much going on right here. Now, the next step is just to take the plus and minus square roots. Now notice right here, this object right here would just be the same thing as a circle. Let's write that down. X squared plus y squared is equal to 13. And so this is a circle centered at the origin with a radius of the square root of 13. All right. So that's the result of, we're taking plus and minus square roots and just simplifying the result here. Now this right here would result in something you guys are quite familiar with, I'm sure, and you don't even really have to know the name of it to know what it looks like. But if you have if you bring the x squared over to the other side, you get y squared minus x squared equals to 13. Now it turns out this is a hyperbola. All right, this is a hyperbola. And let's see if we can draw reasonable pictures of this thing, all right? So let's draw the circle first. Okay, xy axis, and square root of 13 would be somewhere between 3 and 4, right? So we'll count up 1, 2, 3, 4 units, right? So this would be one of the points on the circle, and I'll just, let's see, let's go ahead and go down here. Okay, let's go down, count 4 here also. So folks, right here would, that's somewhere between 3 and 4 right there, so that would be a point on the circle right there. We'd have a point on the circle right here. Okay, and then in a similar fashion, another point on the circle, or somewhere between 3 and 4, minus 3 and minus 4. And the increments here are going to be very substandard as far as the scale. Okay, and then another point, right? So we have this circle passing through these points. Let me see if I can draw it and even make it be close to being a circle. It's not going to be very good, folks, but hopefully your imaginations will fill in the gaps. Okay, so there's a circle. Let's call that a circle, okay? And again, the coordinates of this point right here would be, 0 square root of 13. And it's not hard to see also that, so that's the graph of the circle. All right, now right here, if you think of this as just two parabolas kind of squunched because you would be taking the square roots, notice you could actually write y is equal to plus or minus the square root of x squared plus 13. Isn't that interesting? So you see, this is really just a parabola oriented upwards and downwards, except you're square rooting it. So they end up calling it a hyperbola, I believe. But in any event, the rest of the graph, and let me go ahead and color code this for your viewing pleasure here. The rest of the graph would look something like this. Okay. See, flattened out parabolas in both directions. Okay, and these flattened out parabolas are called hyperbolas. Now, a nice thing to know about how this thing's oriented, and you can observe, folks, that 0 square root 13 satisfies both, right? This point 0, 13 satisfies this equation. 0 root 13 satisfies this equation, and it also satisfies this equation, okay? So the answer to the question is a hyperbola in a circle, okay? So I'll write that down, hyperbola Struggle with the spelling. I think I got it here, hyperbola. And then circle's easier to spell, right? So it's a hyperbola and a circle is the answer to the question. Okay, so let's go ahead and circle our answer. And again, remember that was the original question is, what is the graph, okay? And we can certainly see this is not a graph of a function. Now, yeah, you may wonder, why do you orient it this way along the y-axis rather than the x-axis? Well, some people just memorize that, but if you just think about what's going on right here, if you have y squared, I mean, it's pretty obvious, so maybe I should not even mention it. Plus 13, I'm just rewriting it. To find the x-intercepts, you set y equal to 0, right? But you would get 0 is equal to x squared plus 13. And of course, this only has imaginary solutions, right? So right here, and that's consistent with the fact we don't have any x-intercepts, and we have this big gap. You know, right here, no x-intercepts for the orange graph. And also there's a big gap between plus root 13 and minus root 13. Okay, so this would be x equals to what? Plus or minus square root of 13i. So you can't graph that in the xy plane or the Cartesian plane. So y'all done with the problem. Hope you enjoyed this, the answer.